quick context, this was recorded March 28th and 29th, so a couple of weeks ago at my live event, saasopen.com. We had 1,000 software CEOs there. If you missed it, we hope to see you at the next one, September 5th and 6th in New York City, saasopen.com. But for now, let's jump into the recording.
This post that I put on LinkedIn, within 7 weeks, had generated $1 million of pipeline for us, and we've closed almost $250,000 in new ARR. So I'm Adam. I'm the co-founder of DealPad. I've founded 3 B2B software companies, generating $20 million in revenue. I'm currently running DealPad as co-founder and CEO. We launched it 3 years ago now, 2021, and we finished on $3.7 million last year, and we've grown 300% year on year over the last 3 years. So I want to talk to you today about why, as founders, you're the best salespeople in your company. How many technical founders do we have in the room? Okay. So technical founders inherently aren't very good at being comfortable in front of sales, in a sales environment, in front of customers. But I'll talk to you about why I think that as founders, regardless if you're commercial or technical, you're the best people to support your sales motion going forward. So my personal outreach, I'm a commercial guy, so my background is revenue. So I'm quite comfortable being in front of the market, but I lead things at DealPad for my team. I lead by example. I get a 70% higher response rate to my outreach than my sales team because I'm reaching out to CEOs, I'm reaching out to CROs, and they respond well to another CEO reaching out to them rather than an SDR. Of the responses that I get, of the responses I've had, 36% have led to sales. Massive. Now, it's quite a small number. It's not a huge number, but 36% of everybody that responds to my outreach, we close. So for me, it's worth me investing the time in that outreach. And I'm going to show you as well how we close some fairly big deals by teaming up inside our organization to attract and reach the buying committee, the full senior buying committee of our prospects. Before I do that, I'm going to tell you a story. So I was the CRO of a 50 million ARR SaaS company. And the first thing I did was I looked at their customer list, as I probably would. And the first thing I found was they'd made a very common mistake. When I say mistake, I think it was a mistake. They categorized their customers by revenue. Who does that here? When you think about your customers, when you categorize them into tiers, who does it by revenue? Quite a few of you. Okay. So I'll tell you why I believe that's the wrong strategy. I looked at their tiers, and in tier 4, they had 4 tiers, which were companies that were paying them under $2,000. Their average ACV was $14,000. They had 8 customers that had $5 billion of revenue. And those companies didn't have a CS, a customer success person. They didn't have an account manager assigned to the account. There was no opportunity to grow those accounts at all. Because as far as the company were concerned, they were just paying them a few $1,000s a year. So on my first week, I said to our VP of sales, I said, look, Amanda, we're going to increase our average order value from $14,000 to $100,000. And she looked at me and said, how are we going to do that? I think we're jumping ahead of ourselves. We can't sell something for $100,000 that we're selling for $14,000 today. I said, Amanda, you're right. We're not going to. We're going to sell it for $1 million. And she looked at me like I was just off a different planet. So I said to her, look, here's an example of a customer. They were a 43,000 ARR deal for us. It was one of our biggest customers at the time. I said to Amanda, what are they buying? And her response to me was, well, they're using our accessibility suite to make sure that their web pages are accessible, and currently it's their APAC team using the product. I said, Amanda, that's not what they're buying. And I asked her again, I said, what are they buying? And she couldn't answer it. And if I ask each one of you, I would say 9 out of 10 of you, and this is no disrespect, probably couldn't answer that question either. Because when I ask most people what the customer is buying, they will give me a product response. And I didn't know at the time what that company were buying, but I assumed they were probably buying revenue. It probably meant that a large proportion of their web users were visually impaired and weren't able to read the website, which meant they were missing out on revenue. There was a reason that they cared about their website being accessible. And it wasn't because they wanted their website to be accessible. So really understanding what the customer is buying will be the biggest unlock to you growing revenue. It's how I've grown my revenues from 0 to 20 million across 2 companies, and we're now at 7.5. Understand what your customers are buying. So I said to her, go away and come back to me with what they're actually buying. Within an hour, she came back and said, you're going to like this. I said, well, what is it? She said, they need to be accessibility compliant globally in the next 3 years. She'd been into their annual report. They were a public company. And she looked at their charter. And I said, what happens if they're not accessible, if they miss compliance? She said, well, they'll be fined. And I said, well, how much? And she said, I don't know. Millions. So we spent the next 3 months trying to figure out who was responsible for compliance and for hitting these goals in the next 3 years inside this organization. We found 6 people. So I went and rallied my senior executive team, including our CEO, and I said, we need to drop tools for the next 3 months, and we need to focus on this. And we individually went and connected to all the right people, and I orchestrated it. And I just said, I need you to do this, and I need you to do this. And long story short, we moved that customer from 43,000 ARR to 1.6 million. We signed a 3-year contract. Well, it wasn't my money, unfortunately. I didn't get it. But we signed a 3-year contract worth more than $4 million. So my joke, when I first arrived 3 months earlier, and I said we're going to increase this by $1 million, actually came true. Now that we hadn't sold it when I left, 2.5 years later, we hadn't sold any other $1 million customers. But the moral of this story is that you're probably leaving so much revenue on the table. Because when I walked into that company, they were proud that they had a customer paying them $40,000 a year. They didn't look at the fact that this company had $2 billion of revenue. They didn't look at the fact that they were really up against the wall with a massive fine impending if they hadn't hit these compliance milestones. So I'll urge you to think about what good looks like and what great looks like in your business. If one of your reps or one of your salespeople come back and they say they've signed this deal, inspect it and actually say, is this all we can get from the customer? Is there anything else? Because if you probe and you find a company-wide problem that's a real pain, I promise you, and you will increase the ACV. And if you understand what your customer is buying, it becomes much, much easier. So key takeaways from this little story is that talk about outcomes. Don't talk about product. Understand what your customers are buying. Segment your customers by growth, not by revenue. Understand how big these customers are. How big is the potential opportunity? Growth doesn't mean it's there right now. But if you've got a company with $1 billion revenues paying you $10,000 a year, that's a growth customer. That is not a customer that should be in your bottom tier and not getting any customer support. And find a company-wide pain. I inspect all of our deals, and I make sure that we're actually, we're shooting for as large as we can get. It's going to be more complicated. It's going to take longer to do it, but when it does, it's worth it. And this is how we achieved it. It's called level selling. This isn't my term. It's pretty well known, and it's very, very simple. We identify the key people inside the organization that we want to talk to. And I will then connect in with the CEO of that company. I will get my CMO to connect in with their CMO, my CTO to connect in with their CTO. And now we've got 5 or 6 people on my C-suite connected in to 5 or 6 people in the prospect's C-suite as well. We don't sell to them. I'll reach out and say, hey, I understand you're talking to one of our team. Would love to connect. That's it. And I'll do it via LinkedIn, typically. I don't sell to them, I don't badger them, and my team do the same. But you'll have these serendipitous moments where it comes back around and where your CPO might see something that they've, because they now follow them on LinkedIn, they might have shared, and they'll lean in and they'll give some insight into a problem they might be having. That nugget right there will come back in 3 or 4 months or a year to help you when you're now talking to that organization and the CPO says, oh, by the way, this is a great organization. I've been talking to the CPO of that company a bit. They know their shit, right? And so have a think about level selling. And don't just do it when you're ready to sell. Set this up and really think forward. If you have targeted accounts that you want to win, every year we identify probably 50 accounts that we want to win, that we're really intentional about. And obviously we don't win the 50. But it really helps us understand what we need to do on those 50 accounts, and we put this into practice, into work, and it's worth doing it. Level selling is very, very powerful, and particularly as a founder. And the last thing on why founders are, in my opinion, the best salespeople in a company is because you get shit done. You can move the needle. If a salesperson is inside a prospect and the prospect says, can you do this? They're going to get 3 answers from the salesperson. It's going to be no, it's going to be I don't know, or it's going to be yes, definitely. The third one's a lie. And that's probably where most salespeople will gravitate towards. And the second 2 aren't great because it leaves the prospect hanging. But if the founder gets asked that question, it's either no, but we can do it, or no, we can't do it because and but, or yeah, this is easy for us. And if it's your decision, you're going to decide, right, we're going to reprioritize things for the next couple of months. We're going to build this product or this integration because we need to win this customer. And as the founder, you can make those decisions on the spot, and you can see it through. A salesperson comes to you, and one of my sales guys came to me a few weeks ago, and they said, look, we've got this great customer. We think we can win it, but we need this integration. And it was an integration that we'd never been asked for before, and we decided not to do it. If I was on that, and I wasn't part of it, but if I'd been on that call, I might have decided to do it. But because it was the salesperson, they can't make decisions. Now their deal's scuppered because of me. So if you're a founder, get out there, be comfortable with, don't sell, be comfortable with engaging with prospects. So I want to talk to you about some experimentations and some hacks that I've seen work really well. I'm not really somebody that's on LinkedIn, that was on LinkedIn very much, but I've got a mentor. If you haven't got a mentor, get a mentor. It's the best thing you can do if you're the right one. And she said to me, you need to get onto LinkedIn. You've got a lot of experience. You can help people. And so I started writing some bullshit on LinkedIn, and people started to respond to it for some reason. And one of the things that I found in one of my files was that I was the VP of sales at Salesforce. And during that time, my team and I built some scripts for cold email. And we just spent weeks and months optimizing these scripts for conversion. And then I took those scripts and I've used them repeatedly well in all of my other roles and my companies. We use them today, we just adapt them. And I just thought, well, why don't I share these? Because they work really well. So I posted made a post on LinkedIn. Oh, let me just jump to this, sorry. So this is our experimentation sheet. So if you want this, I can share it with you. It really helps us measure and track and prioritize all of the experiments that we run. And so, we just test the hell out of everything. A lot of this doesn't work, but it really helps us understand what we're testing, where we are with these tests. If you want this sheet, let me know. I can share it with you. So this post that I put on LinkedIn, within 7 weeks, had generated 1 million of pipeline for us, and we've closed almost $250,000 in new ARR from this post. And I'll tell you what the post was. It was me saying, hey, I've got these scripts that we use at Salesforce. We had almost 1 million impressions for this post. 1,500 likes, almost 8,000 people saying they wanted the script. It was insane. I had people reaching out to me that I knew to say, you've gone viral. I've had so many people sharing your post with me because they thought I'd be interested in it. And this is from a standing still on LinkedIn. I don't have many followers. It resonated. And so not only now had I helped the sales community, I'd also generated $1 million of pipeline for my company. And I'd helped my sales team close almost $250,000 of sales to date. So that's one hack. Get on LinkedIn. If you've got something valuable to share, even if you haven't got a network and a large following, you're still going to leverage it. The second is probably the most powerful hack that I've used, and it was around recruitment. And it was very serendipitous. So over the course of a few weeks, I had a couple of people that I used to work with reach out to me, salespeople, to say, I've lost my job or I'm looking for a new role. Do you know anyone? So I spoke to a couple of founders that I knew, and I said, look, there's a great person over here that's looking for some work. Are you interested? I connected these two people with two different founders, and they both got hired on the spot. They were good, and the founders trusted me. So I thought, okay, well, maybe there's a lot of people in my network that are out of work or want a new job. Maybe there's a lot of founders that I know, because most of my network is founders and CEOs, that are looking to hire. So I posted something else, and I just wrote about it. And I had 650 people, not a lot, but enough, comment to say, I'm a DevOps engineer, I'm a RevOps person, I'm a sales exec, I'm a VP of sales, I'm looking for work. And what happened there was, now not only was I helping the community, was I helping founders hire people and find great talent, getting people into jobs, which is the main outcome of what I was hoping to do. I also hired 4 people myself. I filled 4 open roles with 0 cost from one post. And 2 of those roles we've been trying to hire for months. So it was a really great hack. So the general kind of sentiment there is just to get on LinkedIn, even if you're not comfortable with it, just find a way of adding some value to the community, and you'll get it paid back in droves. And then the final one is probably, for me, the most interesting. So back in September last year, we were looking at how we could increase lead conversion from our website. We get about 10,000 monthly uniques on the dealpad.io website. So not a huge amount, but meaningful enough. And our lead conversion was around 0.8%, which I've come to understand is about average, maybe just a little bit below average. But for me, it wasn't enough. So we started to run some experiments. And one of the experiments we ran was taking some AI that we've built for DealPad. Now, inside the DealPad platform, we've got some AI that understands what buyers are interested in, how they're interacting and engaging inside the platform. So we can see what content they've consumed, how long they've looked at the content, who they've shared it with, lots of parameters around it. We redeployed that in a couple of weeks, and we spun it up on our website. So we could now see what keywords our visitors were coming in from. So we specialize in mutual action plans. So were they searching for mutual action plans and coming in there? Were they searching for sales process and coming in that way? And then we looked at and profiled what they were looking at on the site. And we then built some lead magnets. So lead magnets, if you don't know what they are, they're just basically content, but you gate them, so they're behind a wall. You've got to put your kind of email or your phone number in to be able to download that document. And within a few weeks, we'd moved our lead conversion from 0.8 to 4.2%. In real terms, that meant another 36 inbound leads every month, 8 pipeline opportunities, and 60,000 of new ARR booked every month since we launched this in November. So we thought, okay, there's something here. It's worked for us. So we went to 3 of our customers that we thought were in a really good place to be able to leverage this. And we said, take this and use it. And they had similar results. So we've decided to spin it up as a product. And so this is our next kind of innovation at DealPad. And one of the challenges that we've had internally is, what do we do with this now? Do we bake this into our existing platform, or do we have a separate product for it? And we've chosen to have a separate product for it initially, because what we don't want to do is to convolute our message and our market position. For us, that's really important. I think and it comes back to what your customer is buying. Our customer probably doesn't buy top of the funnel inbound leads and on the other side wanting to engage their buyers. And so we're running it very separately. And what we've built is the AI that will understand what your web visitors are doing, and will then enable you to have lead magnets on your website, and you can place them anywhere on any part of the page that you want, and then the AI will decide which content to show which users at which time to increase the likelihood of them coming through as a lead. We've got 2,900 signups to our private beta so far, which is awesome. And what I'd love to do is to extend that invite to you guys. That is a QR code to get on the private beta. And what we're going to offer, or what I'm offering you, is the ability to get it free, so we won't charge you for it for the first couple of months. No obligation, obviously, to continue. And we'll also get you into the first group. So when you sign up, you've got a unique code on this QR code. We'll know you're from SaaS Open. We'll get you into the first group. To get through 2,900 beta registrants is probably going to take us 6 months. But we'll get you in the first group if you sign up using this link. That's it. I'd love to take some questions. Before I do, just one other thing, and it's kind of an ask, is I'm writing a book. I don't know why, but I am, to kind of chart my experience and all the things that I've fucked up on over the last 15 years of running 3 companies. I would love to interview and talk to founders that have done the same thing, anywhere from the 0 to 20 million journey. So if you want to be in my book, I'll quote you, and I'll ensure that everybody gets the ability to proof it before it goes live. Just come and chat to me, or that should be my LinkedIn there on my QR. So if you want to link in with me, that should be my LinkedIn. Chat to me. I'd love to talk to you. But any questions that I can take?
For level selling that you mentioned, is it fine to down level? So as a founder, CEO, my sales team don't want me in the sales team's sales calls because they're like, we're only speaking to director level folks. You're too seasoned, too senior of a type. So, but I still push through. I'm like, I want to be on a sales call. But the CEOs in our customer, in our potential buyers, aren't the ones making the decision. So as a CEO, is it fine to try to reach out to a lower designation on the buyer side?
Yeah, did you get that question? Yeah, and so as a CEO, should we be reaching out to kind of people below us? I think you need to use kind of caution and just look at the nuances of that particular deal. I wouldn't advocate necessarily, so level selling is called level selling because you go into each level. And so if you're doing this, it's kind of an unbalanced level, right? And so I wouldn't advocate it, but I think that if you've got a big account and let's say for argument's sake, you're selling to Johnson & Johnson, the chances of you getting into the CEO of Johnson & Johnson are very, very slim. So then you wouldn't go CEO to CEO. But what you might want to do is you'd identify the most senior owner of that particular project. So it might be in that instance, I don't know, let's just say the VP of compliance might be the person that owns the problem. You level into them. And then you say, your CMO might go in after the head of marketing, whatever. But I wouldn't necessarily advocate you going into a salesperson as a founder because you'll end up doing it all the time. You'll get sucked in. And if you do it once, your sales team will be asking you to do it all the time. And that isn't scalable. So just, I think from a kind of an appreciation of your own time, just think about where it is you're kind of spending your time. Any other questions? Come on, there must be more questions. Speak up. Nope. All right. Thanks, guys.
Hey folks, if we haven't met yet, my name is Nathan Latka. I launched and sold my first software company back in 2015 and went on to write a book about it, which you guys made a Wall Street Journal bestseller, purchasing over 30,000 copies. Thank you so much for that. After the book, I launched this show and went on to create founderpath.com. I raised a large fund to do non-dilutive deals with B2B software founders. So far, we've invested in over 400 software founders, totaling $150 million. Here in 2024, we're doing 3 to 4 new deals per week. So if you're looking for capital and don't want to give up equity, go sign up at founderpath.com for free to get your offer.